How much does it actually cost to hike the Kumano Kodo? When I was planning my trip, I found budget breakdowns all over the place. Some people mentioned $300 for the whole thing. Others spent $1,500. The range was pretty wide, and so I thought it might be useful to break down my actual costs for those of you who are planning your Kumano Kodo pilgrimage. So today I'm breaking down my exact cost for 4 days on the Nakahechi route. What I spent, where I saved money, and where I splurged. If this is your first time on my channel, I'm Linda, and I make videos about hiking transformation and trail guides to some of my favorite trails. If you missed my previous videos on the Kumano Kodo, my 4-day trail experience, planning guide, and packing list, I'll link to those videos below. They'll give you the full picture of what this pilgrimage is actually like. My total cost for 4 days was $447. That's everything: trains, buses, lodging, food, and a few miscellaneous items. Now, this doesn't include my flight from the United States to Japan, because the Kumano Kodo was just one stop on a longer trip. For reference, round-trip flights between Los Angeles and Japan usually run between $700 to $1,000. I've even seen fares in the $500 to $600 range on budget airlines. I also didn't include any hiking gear I already owned. Items like backpack, rain jacket, hiking shoes, etc. If you need help figuring out what to bring on the Kumano Kodo, I have a complete gear guide link below. If you need to purchase any items specific for the hike, factor that into your budget. But for the trip itself, I spent $447 for 4 days. Transportation was about $107 total. I started in Osaka and took the train to Tanabe, then local buses to different trailheads throughout the trip, and eventually back to Osaka from Katsura. I used the JR West Kansai area pass, which saved me a little bit of money, but honestly not a ton. If you're only doing the Kumano Kodo, you can just buy individual tickets. The amount you spend on local buses will depend on where you book your accommodations. If your accommodations are near your trail starting and ending points, then you'll probably spend less on the bus fare than I did. Now here's a pro tip. Buy your individual train tickets or pick up your rail pass the day before your train departs. This gives you time to figure out which platform you need to be on without the stress of rushing on the day of your travel. Accommodations were my biggest expense at $260 for 4 nights. And this is where your budget can swing wildly depending on what you choose. You've got budget hostels starting at $25 a night. Simple, no frills inns between $40 to $60. Mid-range minshukus, or Japanese guest houses, for $120 and up. And luxury ryokans with hot springs for $160 and up. Here's where I stayed. Night 1 was at a Western-style hotel. Night 2 at Watarase Onsen was my splurge. $150 for a traditional Japanese inn with multiple hot spring baths, including an outdoor communal pool and private baths. After a full day of hiking through the woods, soaking in those mineral-rich hot springs was exactly what I needed. In my opinion, it was totally worth it. Night 3, I stayed at a simple inn. And for my last night, I stayed at a hostel. Since none of my accommodations included meals, I bought food from convenience stores, local restaurants, bakeries, and roadside stands. My total food cost was $60, which breaks down to about $15 a day. I was actually surprised by how little I spent. Turns out, rice balls kept me really full. Here's everything I ate while on the trail. In hindsight, There weren't that many opportunities to spend on food since restaurants are very limited. My most expensive meal was a fresh tuna sashimi dinner with sake for under $15 in Katsura. If your accommodations provide meal service, I would recommend going with this option. Not only will it simplify your trip planning, it will also give you a chance to experience local cuisine prepared in the traditional way. The meal cost is usually included in the price of the accommodations. Oh, and one more thing, bring cash, a lot of cash. Rural Japan is still very cash dependent. You'll need cash for local bus, roadside stands, vending machines, temple or shrine gift shops, and some restaurants. There are very few ATMs once you're on the trail, so withdraw more than you think you need before you start. My miscellaneous expenses were about $20. Those include temple donations, lucky charms, and a few small souvenirs. These are totally optional. You don't have to pay anything to enter the temples or shrines, though donations are appreciated. One thing I didn't use, luggage forwarding service. A lot of people forward their bags from inn to inn, so they only carry a day pack. It costs between $13 to $35 per transfer, depending on the distance. I carried everything in my backpack to keep logistics simple and save money. I have absolutely no regrets. Now, if all this planning sounds overwhelming, you can book a self-guided tour package through companies like Kumano Travel. They handle everything: accommodations, luggage transfers, bus passes, maps. You just show up and walk. A typical 6-day package costs about $1,300 for a solo traveler. That's roughly $215 per day. Compare that to my DIY trip at about $112 per day. So you're paying about $100 more per day for the convenience. Is it worth it? If you're short on time, don't want to stress about logistics, or you're traveling during peak season and don't want to deal with booking headaches, yeah, it's worth it. If you're enjoying planning, you're on a budget, and you're comfortable figuring things out as you go, DIY is the way to go. If I go again, I wouldn't change anything. I like the flexibility and figuring things out as I go, but I totally get why people pay for the package. So here's my final advice for keeping costs down. Book your accommodations early. Choose simple lodging. You're on the trail most of the time anyway. Skip luggage forwarding and carry your own pack. Go during off-season if you can. Buy food at convenience stores. And if you're going to splurge anywhere, make it a ryokan with onsen access. Trust me on this. The Kumano Kodo pilgrimage doesn't have to be expensive. I spent $447 for 4 days and had an incredible experience. For the full budget breakdown with every expense itemized, check out my blog post link below. I also break down accommodation options by price range and share sample budgets for different travel styles. If you're planning your own Kumano Kodo trip, drop any questions in the comments. And if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more hiking and travel content. Thanks for watching. See you on the next trail.